What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hills Are Silent podcast, where we like to chop it up about the games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Got a special guest with us today on this episode. I am Two-Tone the Artist.
I'm Mitch the Peach.
And I'm Dario.
Welcome, Dario. Glad to have you. Mitch, heard you got some amazing news. So I'm going to let you jump it off, man. What's going on?
Yeah, I posted on our Instagram feed this week. It's something that I've been trying to get to, or trying to grind to get to for probably since my college days.
Dang.
When I was just playing this game on my iPad 2 in my dorm room. And this is, as many people know, I love card games, and Hearthstone is my favorite card game that I've been playing forever. And I finally reached the Legend status on Hearthstone, which... yeah, super exciting for me. I was pretty pumped. I don't get too jazzed at video game accomplishments anymore, but that one's a long time coming, and it's nice to actually get to the Legend status in a game that I do play quite a bit.
All right, so first question, you said you started off playing this in college on an iPad 2. So has this been the same account this whole time? Like, it's literally taken you this long to get that account to legendary status?
Yeah, it's the same exact account that I have all my Blizzard games on, from World of Warcraft to, to Overwatch to Diablo. It's the same exact account. I didn't even own a PC at the time. I was just, I had my laptop that I ran for schoolwork, but I couldn't even run, Hearthstone on it because it was so crappy. But the Legend status to get to that is not just simply playing the game. It's basically working your way up the competitive ladder the entire time, and the competitive ladder resets monthly. So it's not like it's something that I can just do throughout the lifespan of the game. It's more of every month your rank resets, and you have to grind to get to the Legend status, starting from what they consider now. I think they think there's an iron, and then it gets to bronze, silver, platinum, diamond, and then legend. So you have to go through an entire ladder, which resets monthly, and then if you grind enough, you get to the legend status. And for the first time, you get a cool thing. I was excited that I get a card back. So when you're playing your cards, you have card backs your opponent can see, and you can see in your deck. I'm sure you're showing some B-roll, Mike, that's showing that. But it's showing that I've achieved the legend status. And it was a pretty cool thing to be able to get that, because I was very jealous of people always showing off their legend card back when I did not have one.
All right, so I'm kind of confused about this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that this is an accumulation of all those years of playing. I mean, other than you upping your skill, it's literally like you have to do it within a month.
Yes, you literally have to do it within 1 month. It resets every single month.
Okay.
And it's a lot of grinding too by the very end. So you can there's win streak bonuses that you get from, for winning multiple matches in a row that helps you get yourself back to, to legend quicker.
Oh, okay.
But by the last 2 ranks from Diamond 2 and then Diamond 1, you have to win probably about at least 8 to 10 matches in a row.
Dang.
So it's a real big grind by the end of it to get you to that legend status. So I usually get hung up on those last few ranks because I, either don't have the time, or I don't have the patience, or I'm playing other games to the point where the month resets and I forget about it. So I feel like I had a good deck this time around. I was telling my buddy Drew, I was like, hey man, I think this is the run. This is it. And he's always talking crap to me. He's like, yeah, you say that all the time, dude. I'm like, I know, but I think this is it. And sure enough, I got there.
Nice, man.
What kind of deck
Congrats.
was it?
It was a Highlander Warrior deck. So it was with the Highlander decks, you could essentially put more cards into them than the standard amount of decks, due to one specific card that allows you to put more cards in the deck. So Warrior was not the one that I expected to get to Legend with. I primarily play Mage. I have over 1,000 wins in Mage, so I was like, I thought that would be the class that I got it in, but nope. I found a cool Warrior deck, and made it all the way.
Man, I used to play Hearthstone ages ago, but I fell off for a bit, and then a bunch of packs released, and I felt like it was impossible to really get back in.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I used to play like back in the day when there was like just a few packs out. It was just like people would call it like the credit card warrior, because it was just like a warrior deck with like half of it was legendaries.
Yep. Those legendaries are. Yeah, those legendaries are tough to get still to this day, and I don't want to know how much money I've sunk in the Hearthstone, but I feel like it's worth it because I'm still playing it to this day.
Yeah. Do you know about how many matches you had to play this month to get to legendary status?
Maybe. So I keep track of some, and you can probably see on the B-roll footage that there's like on the left and right hand side, like it doesn't look like it belongs in the game, but it's a thing called Firestone, which is kind of like an overlay that, just helps me out, lets me look at the cards that I play, what's still in my deck, so I don't have to like memorize some certain things. Just looking at that, I mean, if I averaged, trying to look, sometimes I play on my phone and sometimes I play on the computer. I'm gonna guess, I mean, 6. Let's say I played 10 matches, 20 matches a week. I'm gonna go with that. So 20, 40, 60, 80, probably around 80 games total to get to Legend during the month is my estimate. And those games can range anywhere depending on who you're playing against, from like, from 10 minutes to 20 minutes to sometimes even 25 minutes. So like, it's a grind, and that's why it's taken me so long to get there, because as we all know, I play a lot of games, not just card games, but I was determined this month.
I don't know when you have time, man, because I see you playing through Persona 3, and then somehow and you're sinking 40 hours into that, somehow simultaneously you're able to get 80 matches into Hearthstone. Like, your days must be longer than mine, man. That's all I'm saying.
I stay up kind of late, but I'm also playing during work on my phone sometimes when I just have nothing. I need some downtime, and I'll get a quick game in while I'm in a meeting that I don't need to talk in or nothing's going on. I try to work in matches in that whenever I can, and then I just stay up too late because I can't sleep, and I'll just keep playing on my phone.
Yeah.
Also,
awesome, man. Congrats. Thinking you a plaque on your wall for that legendary status.
I know, I really should. I need to get something, right? I mean, the card back doesn't do it as much justice as if I had like a trophy or a plaque, but it's not really that impressive. I mean, there's a ton of people who have reached Legend since Hearthstone's began, but it's nice to say I got it in the legit standard ladder. They have 2 different ladders. There's a standard ladder, which they rotate like the cards in. Since they have so many cards now, Dario, as you probably know, they have a now standard ladder, which they only rotate certain expansions into, and then they have a wild ladder, which is just a free-for-all of every card they've ever created. And the wild ladder is like really, really easy to get to Legend, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go in the standard ladder and get my first Legend there. So it was cool I did that.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they also changed the way that the ranks works. Like before it was like 25 down to like 1 or something like that.
Yeah, it used to be a number rank, and then now it is just like it is a iron, bronze, silver. I think it's the same amount of like wins and games, but they just changed how it looks.
I think the highest rank I ever got was like maybe like rank 2. Never got to Legend. Sadly.
Yeah, I would always get stuck around there too, because it becomes a real big grind in those last final ranks, and one that I didn't have the patience for sometimes.
Yeah, especially when like I like playing control decks, and those games always just take forever. Like I feel like if I was gonna really go for a grind, I'd pick some like brainless aggro deck and just spam that out.
Yeah, like the early days of the Face Hunter, where it's like face is the place. You just literally every time you put a card out, you attack the opponent directly in the face, and you try and get the game as like quickly as possible, so you can just keep moving along.
I tried playing those decks, but then I would just get bored of the deck.
Yeah, that is
long before I get the Legend.
Absolutely, yeah, because it really is just there's no strategy behind it. You're literally just throwing cards out and then praying that they don't stop you. But yeah, that's I just wanted to share a little bit of that. I'm excited that I made it there, and then I'll just keep I'll try again. Now I actually feel like I can maybe play some decks that I don't usually play now, and maybe try and play some classes I don't play as much anymore. Because I mean, I made it to Legend. Now I can kind of lax and try and get better with some other classes.
Yeah. All right,
you
man.
Ever tried any other card games?
Oh yeah, I've played. If there's a card game, I've probably given it a try. I've played Magic the Gathering card game that's on PC that you can play. I mean, I've played the League of Legends card game. What's that one called?
Don't you play Marvel Snap? Isn't that one?
Yep, and I play a lot of Marvel Snap these days as well. It's one that's really competed with Hearthstone lately because I love that. Yeah, if there's a new card game that comes out, like I'll play it. I even tried out the Valve one that came out and died really quick. Why am I blanking on the name?
Yeah,
Artifact.
Which one was that? Do you know, Dario?
Artifact.
Artifact.
Yeah, that one came out and died super quick. I thought it was a cool idea. And I think Marvel Snap kind of took a few things from that actually that I've noticed from playing it. But yeah, I've tried a lot of stuff.
Artifact was just too expensive and too complicated for average people.
Yeah, another one of those instances where people like went and bought because you had to pay for the game itself, and then you had to pay for in-game stuff afterward. But then like they shut it down really quick, and people, paid to get into the game for not much content.
So the servers aren't even up anymore?
No, I don't think it exists anymore, from my understanding. If it does, it's not.
From what I know, the only way people were playing it in recent times was like you would have to join like a Discord and try and set up private matches with people like that. Like there's no way you can do like matchmaking, or like there would be maybe 2 people in the entire server. So it's like that's how you would just set up games.
I'm seeing you can still download it on Steam, but I don't know. The reviews aren't super great for it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, aside from card games, I do play a lot of auto chess too, Dario. I'm not sure if you're familiar with some of the auto chess games like Teamfight Tactics. I
played the. I haven't really sunk too much time into that. I played like the original auto chess that was like in the Dota 2 workshop.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I played a bit of Underlords when that came out.
I did that too.
I've played it. I think of all of them, I've played more TFT, mainly just because it's like it's there. Sometimes if I play like a game of League or whatever, and then like I don't really want to play another one, so I'll just like play a TFT. But yeah,
it's a good chill time.
Yeah, pretty much. I especially when there's like new, like every time I play, there's some completely new set, so I have no strategy whatsoever. I'm just pick random stuff and like hope for the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's all I got for Hearthstone, Mike. It's one of my favorite games ever. Don't know how many hours I've sunk into it, but it's a lot. But yeah, if you want to move on to the next topic, I'm good with it.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, Dario, you are our special guest today on this episode, largely because you are the resident roguelike expert, at least out of the people I know. And I feel like that is a genre that has been underappreciated or just not talked about a lot on this podcast. So, man, thank you for joining us. I wanted to have you on and just pick your brain a little bit about the genre, because I don't really play it, and I think this would be a good opportunity for me to learn about it, and maybe some of our other listeners that don't play that genre to also learn about it. Or maybe some of our listeners that do play that can be like, hell yeah, man. I know all those games. I know exactly what this man's talking about. I feel you on that. All right, so man, I queued up some questions that I was curious about. So, all right, first of all, I don't know how long roguelikes have been around. Maybe they go back decades. I really don't know. But when was the first time you even heard of a roguelike or a roguelite? Like, do you remember what year it was and from where you first heard about it?
I'd say I mean, the original roguelites have been around for ages, but I would say me personally, I only probably started playing them around maybe 2010, maybe 11. That was, I think, when the first Binding of Isaac came out. I think I watched that on a YouTube video of Northern Lion. The man has probably played like 20,000 hours of Binding of Isaac by now. But that was kind of like it's kind of like a podcast format in a way. He would just play that game every day and upload these like long form videos. So that would be that's where I first heard of it.
All right, I found it funny how you're like, yeah, man, it was just like 2010, 2011 when I heard about it. Dude, that was like 12 years ago.
Yeah, it feels like it was the other day.
Yeah, it does. All right, man. So cool. I think the first time I heard about it was probably also around 2010, and I think it was in a Game Informer magazine. What about you, Mitch?
Yeah, I want to say around the same time, because Binding of Isaac, like you mentioned, was coming out, and that was really the first one that piqued my interest in that certain genre. The first one I played was probably Enter the Gungeon, though. My buddy was playing it, and he would watch streamers too that played a lot of Enter the Gungeon, and thought that was a super cool game as well.
All right, so please tell me, what is the distinction between a roguelike with a K and a roguelite with a T? Because I have no idea.
So the term rogue is a game on its own. It was, the original of this kind of genre. It was like a ASCII character, like dungeon crawler, ancient game. Almost, it's almost impossible to play nowadays. It's so hard to play because it's just really difficult to actually see what you're doing with the archaic ASCII characters and all that. But so roguelikes used to mean that they were similar to the game Rogue. Nowadays, roguelikes just tend to mean that there's randomization in them, and that's kind of where the term roguelite came from. Was that it was supposed to be, it had some elements of Rogue, but was different enough that it was a different game, but it just had some elements. That's where the term roguelite came from, as opposed to the roguelikes. I'd sent you some gameplay footage of Caves of Qud, which is a pretty modern, like roguelike. It's got kind of similar art style, but it's definitely been a lot more modernized for modern audiences. But one of the great things about a game like that with very minimalistic art style is that the mechanics are like endless, because you don't have to create animations for every single possible thing. So in that game you can do basically anything you could think of, like, oh, I'm gonna dismember my arm and replace it with like a tentacle mutation or whatever. Like pretty much literally anything you can think of you can do in that game. I haven't put as much time into it as I would like, mainly because it's also got such a steep learning curve. But that would be a definite roguelike in the original sense of the word. Nowadays, I tend to prefer kind of roguelites, ones that are generally easier to get into. They can still have pretty high learning curves, but they're generally more accessible.
All right, man. Next up, what was the first game you played that was a roguelike or roguelite? I know you mentioned The Binding of Isaac. Was that it?
I did play a little bit of Binding of Isaac when it came out, but I only really got into it later on when they released like some DLC and stuff. I'd say the first one that I played a lot would be FTL. FTL Faster Than Light was you basically control like a spaceship, and you fly through like a randomly generated universe, getting like random quests. You get like random shops, random guns, random encounters, and at one run, to win a run, you basically need to get to the end and beat the final boss. And that could take anywhere between like 30 minutes to an hour or so. So it was good for like a nice like bite-sized gaming. I'd say that it's probably that one would be my first. I would say that I put the most hours into.
All right, man. So kind of going off of that, what do you enjoy about the genre? Like, what draws you to play those types of games?
I just really like the variety and the replayability, and because it's such a wide genre, like you can apply these kind of like, you know, randomly generated mechanics and stuff like that to almost anything. So like I just really like, you know, the replayability and especially starting out, like I mean in the 2010s, and so like I don't have much money, so the best value for money games you can get, you buy like a indie game, 10, $15, $20 roguelite, and you have almost like unlimited replayability on one of those compared to buying like a $60 Call of Duty campaign that you finish in like 10 hours. So I would say, yeah, replayability, definitely a big one.
Got it. All right. And what do you consider the best game or games in the genre?
That is a very difficult question, especially since I'd say there's a like since roguelite is such a huge genre with a lot of subgenres, I'd say that you could probably list a couple top picks for subgenres. Um, I would say in terms of like, you know, all-time greats that definitely popularized the genre. I mean, you have to talk about Binding of Isaac. Was there pretty much at the beginning, paved the way for a lot of other games in the same genre, like Enter the Gungeon that we mentioned earlier. Definitely takes a lot of inspiration from Binding of Isaac, but at the same time has a more modernized feel, has some extra quality of life improvements, and you know they innovate on the same formula in a in a different way that really brings that extra freshness. Games like that, Hades as well. Hades nowadays is, I would say, one of the most polished experiences. One thing you'll find that generally roguelites don't have much in the way of a story. Like they might have a little bit of lore here and there, but the story is usually pretty bare bones. And I'd say Hades doesn't have like, you know, an incredible story compared to something like, I don't know, like Last of Us or something like that, but it goes a long way with a lot of extra filler content and voiceover work, and the presentation and everything is absolutely top notch. Those for action games, I would say, are probably the peak. But then as I mentioned previously, there's so many varieties. Like the roguelite card building genre has exploded in recent years due to Slay the Spire. Really, Slay the Spire is a masterclass in game design. Like the mechanics themselves are very simple, but the game is insanely hard to win on higher difficulties. You really need to have like expert knowledge on everything, never make a mistake, and have some good luck on your side. Because like nowadays, a lot of other card games that have taken inspiration from them, usually they have a lot of like really complicated mechanics where you have to like read like 10 paragraphs in a card to figure out what it does. And that's why pure simplicity of Slay the Spire really just can't be overstated. It's an incredible game. I mean, recently, actually, a new roguelike deck builder came out in Balatro. I've been playing that quite a bit recently. That one I highly recommend. It's just hits you with that dopamine release when you hit a high score. You're building poker hands, and you can cheat. You know, you can take cards out of your deck. You can add cards. Like you could drop a five of a kind, ace of spades. Like you can then that adds up with a whole bunch of multipliers and stuff. When you drop like a 10 million point hand, and the flames are coming out and it's playing like sick music, gets the heartbeat going for sure. One of the newer I mean, one game that I've been really enjoying lately is Against the Storm as well. That is a city builder roguelite, which is a genre that I haven't seen much really. I mean, I think this is one of the few ones that I've seen, and I like the idea of playing city builders like Civilization, and like I do enjoy a game of Civ every now and then, but one game takes so long. Whereas, I like my bite-sized gaming. Play one run, play 2 runs, or whatever. You can just play one run of Against the Storm, and it's usually over before it gets too crazy, and then you can move on with your day or play another game or whatever. So yeah, it's almost impossible to pick one best, but you can definitely pick a couple great ones from each of the subgenres.
Okay, so rolling off of that, you mentioned that roguelikes basically have infinite replayability. So what's the most hours you've sunk into a roguelike, and which game was it? You say it's hard to pick your favorite game. Well, maybe the one you sunk the most hours in may just be that game.
Well, as I mentioned previously, Binding of Isaac, that is my most played. I have I have 329 hours in that game. I'd say that's pretty good value for like a $20 game.
All right, so
I'd say
also, out of your Steam library, is that the game that you've sunk the most hours in, regardless of genre, or is that just in the roguelike genre?
Just in the roguelites. I have a lot of games on Steam that I've played. I would say that one thing with roguelites is that I tend to not. I play a lot of different games all the time, so I generally don't hit super high numbers in a specific game. I was more spread out, but that's what makes Binding of Isaac kind of stand out from the pack, and that it does have a significantly higher hour count than a lot of other ones. I would say that my 2 highest would be Isaac and Slay the Spire, and then Enter the Gungeon. The rest, I might get like maybe 80 to 100 hours out of them, but it's pretty rare that they would get higher than that, because usually there's like another game has come out by then that I've stopped playing.
Speaking of that, Dario, it seems like you play a different game every single day. What is the roguelike that you're playing lately?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, like I've been really addicted to Bellatro. Just occasionally, sometimes I'll be on a work call that is really boring. I'll just pop a little Bellatro window up on the side there. No one will know. Bellatro has been great, and I've really liked winding down with Against the Storm. Just kind of a really chill vibes game. Have that up, maybe watch a YouTube video going on the other monitor. Those two have been great. I haven't really been playing any of the like more intense games lately, because I've just been trying to like wind down.
Nice, man. I'll give you a moment. Any last words about roguelikes before I see if Mitch has any notes?
Yeah, man. I would say check out. I mean, if you haven't played any of these roguelites, or if you have any interest in the genre and you haven't played any of these games that I mentioned, I highly recommend checking them out. I'd say for a newcomer to this genre, Hades especially is very accessible. Highly recommend that for someone who's just jumping in for the first time.
I will say the only roguelike I've ever played was with you, Dario, and that was Risk of Rain 2.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. They came out with a DLC for it that I haven't checked out. I've heard good things though.
Nice, man. Mitch, any notes on any of those games Dario mentioned?
No, I played a lot of them, and they're all great ones that he brings up. Yeah, I mean, it's a great genre and everything. I know I dabble in a lot of genres, as we've talked about in the pod, but roguelikes and roguelites are definitely up there in as far as hours played for me.
Nice. Is there any that you've played that Dario didn't mention?
I think it's still considered a roguelite, but it's also kind of like a management sim. But Cult of the Lamb is one that I've played quite a bit of. Has a lot of those roguelike elements, but also you're kind of managing a cult of people that you kind of like build like a little camp of your people, but then go and do the dungeon crawling after it. So that's one that I really enjoy.
Nice. All right, cool, man. Mitch, I think that you found something else in the news for us to cover on this episode. Pass it over to you, man. What was that?
Yeah, so just reported, checked out this article on Kotaku, just stating that for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the Chapter 2 of Final Fantasy VII Remake has come out, and it looks like for those people who wanted to get a physical copy in both Japan and Asia, well, your discs were flip-flopped. It's a two-disc package for the physical release, and one is a data disc and one is a play disc, which is, I mean, not uncommon with some of these larger games. But for those people who did pick up those physical copies, the data disc is actually the play disc, and the play disc that they note is actually the data disc, which has kind of caused some people to panic for whatever reason, thinking that if they put them in out of order, maybe their PlayStation would fry or something like that. But there's nothing that sort, just a simple, error in labeling of the discs. And, I thought it was a pretty interesting topic that might lead us into some other stories of some similar scenarios. I know, Mike, you had one that you were, that you have memory of from back when.
Yeah, man, stuff isn't always quality assured before it hits the factory. And one thing I can think of off the top of my head is I remember on the Dreamcast, and mind you, this is before the advent of downloadable patches. So basically, back in the day, what was printed on the disc is what you got. There's bugs, that's it, man. And typically with those older consoles, they would have to do a reprint if there were any bugs. I know that there's a lot of N64 games that had multiple print runs, including The Legend of Zelda, The Ocarina of Time. There's actually multiple reprints of that fixed various bugs as time went on. And same thing with the PlayStation 1. A lot of those greatest hits discs were not only just reprints of the same game, but they were reprints of the game with minor updates as well as with the Dreamcast. Some Midway published games would have hot and new stickers on the front of the screen, which really doesn't make any sense to somebody who is just like looking at that in the store. To the average person, that really has no meaning, but what that really meant was that disc was a reprint and it was fixing bugs. Now, apparently Midway, during the launch of the Dreamcast, released a bunch of games that weren't necessarily completely stable. There was like audio glitches, save file glitches, and all of those games were reprinted with this hot and new sticker on it that contained bug fixes for those issues. So just a word to the wise, if there's any Dreamcast physical collectors out there and you're going to pick up a Midway game, first check to see if it was re-released as a hot new edition, and then that's probably the one you want because it's going to be less buggy. The other thing that comes to mind is Resident Evil Revelations for the Nintendo 3DS. When copies of that were printed up and shipped out, they actually had a typo or a misspelling in the name Revelations on the spine of the case. So it actually says Resident Evil. Well, it still says Revelations, but it's spelled AITONS. Or Revelatons, I guess. Don't know how that got overlooked, but yeah. There's not much you can do after you print up like 100,000 copies of that. Like, oh well, let it roll.
Yeah. They don't run it through spell check. Come on, guys.
Apparently not.
Yeah, and last but not least, Dario, I think this is one you found. So,
the
Asus one. I'll let you explain that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of recent. I would say maybe in the last year or so. Asus released a special edition motherboard with a Neon Genesis Evangelion special edition. Basically, it was like all in red, had the words Neon Genesis Evangelion. Well, it should have said that. Instead, it said Neon Genesis Evangelion. Little of an awkward mistake, especially when you're paying, special edition prices for that motherboard. But I guess now those kind of become collector's items or for these like rare misprints.
Yeah, and that's a good point. There are people that hunt down misprints. I know, like in the coin collecting world, if you have a coin that has a misprint on it, man, and something that was like a low print run accident, that can be worth a lot of money. I don't know why, but people like to gravitate towards the releases that have mistakes on them when it comes to coins. And I guess video game and electronic collecting is no different. So I don't know, man. Just another reminder that we're all human. We all make mistakes, and sometimes stuff gets by us and makes it out there into the world, makes it to production. All right, guys. Any final words on that?
No, I mean, I feel like mismarking a couple discs isn't the end of the world. So I think there could have been way worse of an error, and they could still play the game in day one and enjoy the new Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah, I think the big point is, as long as it still runs, who really cares?
Exactly.
Yeah, especially with a lot of broken releases nowadays. Like there's been launches of games that are unplayable on release. Like it's kind of crazy that you're like, wow, my game is playable on day one. That's a good launch.
Yeah,
like the state of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, Dario. Thank you, man, for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Appreciated having you on. Professor Dario on the Roguelikes, schooled me on that. Maybe someday I'll try another one. Up to this point, like I said, Risk of Rain 2 is the only one I played, and that was thanks to you.
And they actually came out with online co-op for Binding of Isaac.
Really?
This year, actually, January. So,
So, wait, what year did you say that game came out?
So the game originally came out in 2011, but there's been multiple DLC releases since then. The last major DLC release was a couple of years ago, but they only recently added an online co-op mode. Before it was just like local co-op only. So you could still kind of do online if you did like the Steam remote play, but now they're going to be supporting it officially.
That's wild that they're still updating that game over 10 years later.
Yeah, impressive.
Definitely.
Well, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the episode. Thanks again if you made it all the way to the end. You can find all our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Mitch, where else can we be found?
Yep, our Twitter is @HillsAreSilent, our Instagram is Instagram.com/HillsAreSilent, our TikTok is @The Hills Are Silent Podcast, and our YouTube again is @The Hills Are Silent. If you have any questions, comments, hit us up on our Spotify comments, our YouTube comments, or our email inbox, hillsaresilent@gmail.com. We will catch you on the next episode.